15% APR financing for full 40-day months on the fuel-efficient RAV4 or Highlander.
Jeff, adjust your camera.
All right, great.
Jeff, adjust your camera. You should go down a little. There you go, bud.
All right.
Nice.
Nice.
Well,
Beautiful.
Perfect. Now we only see like all of you, not just the top of you.
That's okay. You only need to see the part that talks. That's all.
Well, the meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, November 16, 2022, please come to order. This evening's meeting will be a virtual Planning and Zoning meeting hosted by Zoom. During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. When you first enter the Zoom meeting, you will be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. 2, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone will be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so you can be seen by others when and if you choose to. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise by the meeting chairman, during the meeting host will keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You will still be able to hear everything said by the commission members, even if you're muted or your camera is not on. There will be opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3, the secretary will read the call of the meeting as published according to Governor Lamont's executive order. 4, during the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda are available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.guilfordct.gov, and also through a direct link on the Planning and Zoning page. 5, comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. 6, there will then be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. 7, after all clarifying questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support of the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. Then those who wish to speak in opposition to the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make their statement. 8, the applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. 9, once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 10, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or by emailing planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov after 9 a.m. 11, all actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are the following members who will please identify themselves. No Kevin Clark. Bill Freeman. Hello. Ted Sands.
Here.
Philip Johnson.
Here.
Sean Cosgrove.
Here.
And I am Scott Edmund, Chair. Our alternates tonight, Jason Marchi
Here.
and Larry Zolo.
Here.
Both Jason and Larry, it looks like you'll be voting tonight.
God, I think Ted's also here.
I did say Ted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. So yeah, we have Kevin and Frank missing, so Jason and Larry on the council tonight. Staff present are Jamie Stein, Town Planner, Nigel Mills, Assistant Town Planner, and this meeting will be recorded via the Zoom platform available on the town website for viewing. The secretary will now read the legal notice.
Jimmy, can you put the notice up? Thank you. Okay. Notice is hereby given that the town that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a virtual public hearing on November 16th at 7:30 PM via the Zoom platform using the following link. The following applications will be heard: Alexander Hale, 3700 Durham Road, map 63, lot 1, zone R8. Special permit application for the conversion of an existing accessory structure, parentheses, approved for demonstration space and guest accommodations to an accessory apartment. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning office and on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may attend via web connection and shall be heard. All written correspondence shall be submitted to guilfordct.gov 24 hours prior to the meeting day. Documents are available at the Planning and Zoning Office, dial 203-453-8032 for assistance, dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 25th of October, 2022. Scott Edmund, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Philip. All in favor? Say aye.
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 It's unanimous to me. First, the item on our agenda for public hearing is Alexander Hale, 370 Durham Road, map 63, lot 1, zone R8, special permit application for the conversion of an existing accessory structure approved for demonstration space and guest accommodations to a accessory apartment. Is there anyone here to represent Mr. Hale?
I'm here, Alexander Heil.
Hello.
Hi.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Alexander Heil and the address is 3700 Durham Road in Guilford, Connecticut.
Thanks. And you want to walk us through what you're looking to do?
Okay, so we bought this property in June this year, and we found this property has an accessory structure that has already a special permit as of 2017, I believe, for demonstration use and for guest accommodation. And we now want to convert it to a place that we have it as an accessory apartment, that it can be rented out, not on a short-term base, but on a longer term to get stability with people who can live there. It's not unusual. Our neighbor has the same. They also have a rental, a part of the house that they rent out. It has the property was previous a trout lily farm, and there has been a lot of demonstrations there and activities there. So it's not unusual that people are here, so to say, at the house. They had accommodated it for teachers here who taught basketry and other accommodations. So I don't think it will increase the traffic or anything. And so we just want to make that a legal status, so to say, or to make it clear what the situation is by applying to have that as a special permit to use it as an accessory apartment. And I think it will help the community. It's more stable, and having extra living space, I think, is something that the town of Guilford is not against, as far as I understand.
Thanks.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Jamie, do we have any plans that we can put up?
Jamie, you're muted.
Here you go. I have the existing survey when the accessory structure was first put in place. Let me just try to get zoomed in.
So the structure in question is, oh, sorry. Maybe if I can show it quickly. So the structure in question is this building here.
Would you like to share your screen, Alexander?
No, I can draw it on yours, actually.
Oh, how are you doing that? Amazing.
Sorry, there's a view option, and then if you click on that, you can annotate things.
Alexander, you're awesome.
That is so interesting.
Thank you.
learned something. Holy mackerel.
Well, for my profession, I do some teaching, so we do things like that.
That's great.
So that's the structure itself. And so the main house is here. You can hope, well, it's not so nicely visible in green.
Would you circle the main house? There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, though that's in green, it's the main house. And that's where we live. And the structure already, it says here proposed project location because it was built, the map is from 2017. It has been converted already. It's beautiful. The septic system has been updated to accommodate for people living there anyway in 2017 when the previous special permit was applied for. So I think, and we have no plans to change anything, like building anything there or changing things. It's 1 bedroom. And then, so the bedroom area is here. And then this is a living area with a kitchen.
So, Alexander, this is Sean Cosgrove. How far away from the Lake Quannapoug Beach are you?
Actually, not very far. So this is Durham Road. You can see here.
Right.
Here's Durham Road, right? Now my cursor lost it. Okay, here it is. And here's a lake actually. So this is lake area. So the road is here that you can see it's written here. Then there's a very small sliver of lakefront, and then the lake is right there. So actually, when you're in the apartment, they have a perfect view of the lake.
Lovely.
It is quite lovely, yes.
Alexander, this is Jason Markey. This is the old Trout Lily Farm property, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, that. Thank you, Jason.
Which was approved for like kind of a B&B use, wasn't it, Jamie?
And a florist.
It was meant to be a demonstration space for, as Alexander had mentioned, workshopping and trainings, and the special permit does actually list out guest accommodations. But we thought, for Mr. Heil's preferred use, that it would be best to codify the structure as an accessory apartment.
Makes perfect sense to me.
It looks pretty straightforward to me.
We have one memo from town staff. Let me bring that up.
So is this a special permit application?
Yes. Well, according to my notes here, yes. All right. Who wants it? I'll jump at once.
No, I'll take it.
I'll take it. To Planning and Zoning Commission from Shirley Mickens, RS, November 15th, 2022, 3700 Durham Road, map 63, lot 1, accessory apartment, close paren. The Health Department has previously approved an application for an accessory apartment and received a central system exception from the Department of Public Health from 2016 for that use. The septic system was upgraded at that time to accommodate the apartment. The Health Department would like to receive interior plans to ensure any renovation keep the apartment at 1 bedroom. Signed, Shirley Mickens, RS.
Thank you. Jamie, we're good with that last sentence, since there is no renovations happening, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Heil and I spoke about that. I think the intention of the letter was just to say that if they did have any intentions of doing interior renovations, that it would get reviewed by the Health Department.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from the public? Do we have any anyone that would like to speak in support of this application? Yes, Mr. B.
I recommend this. I think I've met Alex and his wife, and I think they'll do a fantastic job with this facility, and it's well suited for their intended use.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak in support of this application? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to this application? Commissioner, seeing very little from the public on this item, and seeing as there's nothing actually changing on the site, does anyone want to make a motion to waive the second public hearing for the special permit?
So moved.
I'll second.
So I saw Philip with it, and then Jason's the second. Any discussion? All right,
I mean,
Rizzolo.
this is exactly the perfect type of ADU that we're looking for in town. I mean,
Correct.
so, I mean,
Oh, point of order, I'm not sure that Jeffrey stated his name and address for the record.
That's fair.
My apologies, Jeffrey Beatty, 705 Boston Post Road, Guilford, Connecticut. Thank you, Mr. Rizzolo.
All right, so we had a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Jason Marchi,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Phyllis Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will vote yes. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing on this item?
So moved?
Thank you, Philip.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Any discussion? Seeing none, Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Jason Marchi,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. We'll hopefully have an answer on this one tonight. Thank you, Alexander.
Thank you, everybody.
That will close our public hearing portion of the evening. Deliberation of public hearing items. First one would anyone want to make a motion related to Alexander Hale, 370 Durham Road?
I would be happy to make a motion if Jamie can put it up.
I can do it too.
Thank you.
Scott, a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Something like this, we wouldn't have to do vote to not do a second public hearing, right?
No, we already did that.
Oh, you
We
did?
did it.
We made a motion to waive.
Oh, all right.
I was very thorough.
Proposed motion, Peel accessory apartment approval. Voted the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for the conversion of an existing accessory structure approved for demonstration space and guest accommodations to an accessory apartment at 3700 Durham Road, map 63, lot 1, zone R8. Submitted drawings are as follows, quote, site plan for garage renovation and addition, Trout Lily Farm, 3700 Durham Road, Guilford, Connecticut, unquote, prepared by LWF Land Surveying, November 2007, and modified by Charney Architects LLC, January 19, 2016, one sheet. This application is approved with the following conditions. The applicant shall file with the town clerk an original copy of the special permit, parentheses, to be provided by the Planning and Zoning Department, unparentheses, and shall furnish written evidence to the Planning and Zoning Department that document has been so recorded. 2, any future interior renovations to the approved accessory apartment shall be reviewed by the local health department to ensure the accessory apartment remains a one-bedroom dwelling. This application is approved based on a finding that it conforms with the Guilford zoning regulations code 273-19, apartment accessory to single-family dwelling. This approval shall become effective 15 days after publication of the legal notice of the decision and upon filing with the town clerk.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
I think I got Jason on that one. All right, discussion.
as stated earlier, I think this is the absolute ideal ADU that one could ask for. But that's one man's opinion.
I think I concur. This is a very straightforward application.
And I would agree.
Roll call vote, Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Jason Marchi,
Yes.
Ed Sands,
Yes,
Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Hale. Okay. Next item is Charles Kermay, 316 Little Meadow Road, map 686, lot 2, zone R5, special permit application for earth removal operation, section 273-66 of the Guilford zoning regulations. There continued deliberations from our last meeting. Jamie, anything to discuss before we jump into a motion?
No.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion related to Kermay? Sure, Mr. Sands, let me bring it up.
I have a copy here.
Okay, great.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for an earth removal operation at 316 Little Meadow Road, map 86, lot 2, zone R5. Submitted plans and drawings are as follows. 1, site plan, Kermay property, 316 Little Meadow Road, Guilford, Connecticut, dated October 3, 2022 by Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, 1 sheet. This application is approved with the following conditions. 1, the applicant should file with the town clerk an original copy of the special permit approved, paren 2B, provided by the Planning and Zoning Department, close paren, and shall furnish written evidence to the Planning and Zoning Department that the document has been so recorded. 2, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work and dewatering activities. Soil stockpiles shall be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 3, all dredged material shall be removed from the property within 30 days from the completion of the excavation of the pond. 4, a revised site plan shall be filed with the Planning and Zoning Office prior to the commencement of any site work and shall include the following modifications. A, add the pond's top of bank elevation. B, remove the proposed pump location. C, add construction notes that outline best practices for dust control and road sweeping in compliance with the CT Deep Erosion Control Manual. 5, this application does not include approval for any on-site grading adjacent to the pond or within the proposed nursery. Those activities may require separate wetlands permits. 6, in addition to the above, the standard conditions as set forth in zoning regulation, section 273-68, condition for approval of earth removal operations apply in this application. 7, all work done for pond development or earth and sediment removal shall be limited to the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. This application is approved based on the finding that it conforms with the following Guilford zoning regulations. 1, 273-66 through 273-72, Article 8, earth removal operations. This approval shall become effective 15 days after publication of the legal notice of decision and upon filing with the town clerk.
You, Mr. Sands. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill Freeman. Discussion.
You know, if you put a pool in, you have to put a fence around it. Is there any regulation regarding a pond?
I guess that's the reason why it has the certain slope, the certain required slope in the first initial 6 feet, as I think Mr. Anderson said during the last meeting. So that that's what makes it a pond, so you can get out.
Okay, I just, throwing it out there.
And that's the only difference I can see.
Yeah.
And I had a quick question. What's the name of the road that's running up alongside the property? Prospect Hill. I drove by. It's a pretty narrow road, and the temporary driveway where trucks are to come and go and have to fit between two trees. Can the trucks, Mr. Kemme, can the trucks make that turn? Have you looked into that? And if they couldn't,
Yes,
do you
yes.
have
I believe that's not a problem. I don't think it's a problem.
okay. Just wanted to be reassured that you.
No,
considered that.
I understand. And I guess if it is, that would be my beloved problem.
Do you own the trees on either side if you had to remove one?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I own that whole area. So.
If I may, there is one tree adjacent to that exit that is on town property, but the rest of the trees are on Mr. Kermay's property. And I've already had an excavator look at the site, and he assured me that he'd be able to get a triaxle out of there with no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may elaborate on your fence question, no, there is no requirement for fencing, but Mr. Kermay is proposing deer fencing around his property anyways. So there will be a fence there.
Okay. Just want to make sure,
Yeah, I hear you.
kids don't slip in and cause problems for you.
Yeah, and as stated, that is in our design of the pond that to a water depth of 6 feet, there is a moderate slope. So, even if one of Mr. Kermay's workers or himself were to slip into the pond, they could get out of it.
Mr. Kermay, we're going to give you a swim test. How about that?
Lovely.
Jamie, the only question I had is the zoning enforcement officer an official position still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Just wanted to check. All right, any other discussion? And we'll go to a roll call vote. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Jason Marchi.
I'm going to abstain for this one.
Sure. Ted Sands,
My motion, yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. Good luck with your plan.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your patience with us, and
Thank you very much, everyone.
hope it's a great project.
You guys, well,
Have a great night.
I'll work on it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good luck.
All right. We have some pending applications. Joyce A. D'Amato, 46 Gray Ledge Drive, map 51, lot 214, zone R5, special permit application. After the fact, attached accessory apartment received and set public hearing for December 7th, 2022. Also, Guilford Agricultural Society, Inc., 111 Lovers Lane, map 40, lot 138, zone R3, special permit application for renewal with the proposed amendments to the reissued special permit dated May 6, 2020, receive and set public hearing for December 7th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to set these applications?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Scott, quick question,
Yep.
in advance of the Agricultural Society, do you want to give us any insights as to what changes are being suggested?
Jamie.
I do not remember the specific details right now. But I do believe that they are looking to alter. You know what, I don't want to speak to it, Phil, because I don't remember the details. But it
So
is-
just from a,
I'll review it, Phil, so I'll be ready.
right, so from a historical perspective, there it was there was some friction with the Agricultural Society regarding the utilization of the property, and there was a negotiated settlement basically on it. So again, just
I'll take a look
listen
at
to it and we'll go from there.
Yep. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, we have a new application, Shoreline Medical Facility, 111 Goose Lane, map 75, lot 13, Yale New Haven Hospital requests an extension of an approval granted on March 24th, 2021 to continue operation of a temporary COVID-19 sample collection facility until June 1st, 2023. Receive and take action. Do we have anyone here representing Shoreline Medical Facility?
Yes, this is Todd Hedges, Director of Facilities for Yale New Haven Hospital.
Hi, Todd.
Hi.
Do you want to just briefly?
Sure. So in around June of 2020, we applied for the first permit to get the zoning variance to allow the COVID sampling site to be set up there. We've since asked for 2 other extensions to extend it, originally 6 months, then a year, which brings us to December 31st of this year. Even though COVID is winding down, we're still testing anywhere between 120 and 200 samples a day from that site. We'd like to request to keep it until June, at which time the pavement plants will be open. We could remove the trailers and restore the islands and the parking spaces.
So, yeah, so the plan is to take it down after June. That would be my first question.
Yes.
Do you have plans to do testing like within your facility, or is it you're not testing there?
As of right now, they're not doing testing within the facility, but I don't know if things will change over the next 6 months when the whole landscape evolves with COVID. We're hoping that it becomes more of a lesser issue, so to speak, and we would do testing inside.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners?
Well, I mean, this application does not prevent you from asking for a further extension if COVID's still a problem, does it?
No.
No, it does not.
So Scott, I hate to jump the gun. Can we just extend this for another year till December of 2023? I mean, not
right.
I mean,
Right.
If in fact you want to close it before that, God bless, that'd be great. You know,
Right.
we can be done with this, but.
So I'm fine with that as long as the rest of the commissioners are fine with that length of time. Again, I think no one wants to see anything there in perpetuity.
Right, but I mean, if we need it, we need it. If we don't, I'm sure they'll take it down.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
Yeah, we absolutely need the parking spaces back, so we're trying to, do what we need to do.
Okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that. Any other comments? Then I wonder if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the approved use of the testing facility until December of 2023. That's the end of my motion.
I got you. Here you go, bud. Here you go, buddy.
Sorry. Proposed the Yale New Haven Shoreline Medical Facility approval voted the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan application for the Yale New Haven Shoreline Medical Facility to extend the approval of a temporary COVID-19 sample sample collection facility located at 111 Goose Lane until December 30th, 2023. Original approval dated September 16th, 2020. This application is approved based on a finding that it conforms to the town of Guilford zoning code.
Here a second.
I'll second that. Second.
Thanks, Jason. You're quick on the draw there. Good work. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Thank you.
opposed or
Thank you for all
abstains?
your hard work and good work.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, next on the item, we have a mandatory referral. The Board of Selectmen at its November 7th, 2022 regular meeting recommended to the Planning and Zoning Commission under CGS 8-24 to purchase a conservation easement from the Guilford Land Conservation Trust for an approximately 24-acre parcel located on Great Hill Road, identified as Assessor Map 109, Lot 16A. Do we have anyone that's presenting this, Jamie, or are we just, do you have any information for us?
No, the only thing I have is in the materials folder. I think there's a memo. I'm happy to pull that up here.
I always found this curious that they refer this to us, but you know, what do I know?
I think
Matt,
it's, I think it's a procedural question, right?
Yeah, and so it's just kind of, okay, we receive it, we refer, I mean, they're the ones that buy it.
Yeah, I think it's largely perfunctory, and that if you guys decide, if you guys say no, we might have a different opinion later on and exercise that option anyway.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Phil. That's kind of the way it is, right?
I know. I'm just curious why, I mean, I guess it's statutorily, it has to be
Yes, it
referred
is.
to us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
It's
for.
it's the anachronistic town meeting form of government, I think,
Well,
right?
thank you for statutorily referring it to us, and I'm sure we will refer it back to you with approval, but that's just one person's vote.
Okay, Mr. Freeman, you want to read this one real quick?
Sure. Mandatory referral. Dear Scott, in accordance with the Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-24, I am forwarding the following request to you for your consideration at the November 16, 2022 meeting. Mandatory referral. The Board of Selectmen at its November 7th, 2022 regular meeting recommended to the Planning and Zoning Commission under CGS 8-24 to purchase a conservation easement from the Guilford Land Conservation Trust for an approximately 24-acre parcel located at Great Hill Road, identified as Assessor Map 109, Lot 16A. Thank you for this matter. Sincerely, Matthew T. Hoy.
My mistake. There was not additional information on that. All right. Does anyone want to make a
Mr. Chairman, can I just for
Yes,
a moment,
sir.
please? This is one of the beautiful vistas that our community has. If you stand at the school on the hill at that area and you look north, it is one of the most beautiful, pristine pastures you've ever seen. And we, with the land trust, have decided to memorialize that for as long as we can. There will be no development on that piece of property, consistent with what the town of Guilford has done for open space preservation. So thank you for that consideration.
Appreciate it. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve this referral?
I will make that a motion. Motion. Do we have to read something or?
Nope.
No.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? None. That motion carries. All right. Approval of minutes from November 2nd. Was anyone ever able to review the minutes from November 2nd?
Question.
I'll make a motion that I reviewed the minutes and they appear to be substantially correct.
Second.
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Freeman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain on that since I wasn't there.
Yeah, I abstained too. I was not there.
All right. So noted, motion carries. And finally, zoning regulations discussion with consultant Greg Chalder of Planometrics, unless Jamie, we have something else we need to do first. All right, Glenn, welcome back.
Evening, everybody. How are you?
Great.
Hey, do we close the public hearing?
No.
Everything's like planning and zoning stuff closed other than zoning?
Well, the public meeting was closed a while ago. We
Yeah.
regular meeting for some time.
Hale, we closed it after him, right?
Yeah.
Great. Hi, Glenn.
Mr. Chalder.
So, believe that the main reason I'm here tonight is to go over with the commission, possible accessory dwelling unit regulations for inclusion in the draft. Is that fair, Jamie?
Yeah, Jamie,
Yeah,
you want to
thank
give
you,
us a little
Glenn.
history?
Yep, and thank you for coming back to join us. So if you remember back in April in our working sessions, we had discussed the accessory apartment or the accessory dwelling section of the regulations. And I just, as the end of the year approaches, we are quickly coming up on the deadline as to whether or not we're going to fully opt in to the state legislatures, the Public Act 21-29 and all of the standards that they had for accessory apartments. And so I just wanted to have Glenn draft the full opt-in regulations, which is what is the newest version of the reg stated in November for you all to look at and be in agreement with. It's something that I believe you all agreed to in April, but just because there is a bit of a time sensitivity, if we do not opt out of these regulations by January 1, then we by default opt in. So I just wanted to make sure that we were all clear on this one and that we could make a decision to fully opt in or not.
Yeah, Jamie, just a couple of quick things before we set Glenn loose on that one. There was a couple of things, right? If we chose to opt out, then there's a bunch of requirements that have to be then triggers a bunch of requirements, correct? We have to, I think we have to state it publicly on multiple forums, and we have to come up with reasons why we're opting out, I believe, right? There's a bunch of
reasons why I don't know about that.
We definitely have to state it publicly and whatnot.
Right.
Second question. I would try to look through my notes, and I seem to remember when we were discussing this, was it in the summer? That there was an all or nothing component to it, or my question was that when we were discussing it, it seemed like it was either you do this or you don't touch accessory apartments at all, and yet there's a lot of towns around that are opting out of this and just stating that they're going to just be looking into it. Do you have any?
Well, yeah, so I'm happy to kind of paint the broad brush from the sort of planning perspective, but I'd like for Glenn to kind of walk you through the zoning language, and he can point out the pieces where this is a fully kind of opt-in regulation, which would separate it from the opting out, of course. But I think the importance here is that we have, through the Affordable Housing Plan and with our Affordable Housing Committee, we've identified accessory dwelling units as a way to increase our diversity of housing stock, our prevalence of affordable housing, working within our existing architecture, within our existing density almost, right? Like we're not creating new parcels and new units, we're working within our existing parcels. That coupled with the data that we discussed and I presented in, I think, April, where for the past decade or 15 years, the Planning and Zoning Commission has been reviewing special accessory dwelling or accessory apartment applications via a special permit process. And, we do on average, I think about 10 a year. and they're, the majority of them are approved. So it's something that we're comfortable with as a town. It's something that we've been doing via the special permit process. And it's something that helps aid, although we're not requiring that they're deed restricted. That is something that other towns do. We're not requiring that, but it does create sort of a more naturally occurring affordable housing option.
From a historical perspective, I would add that Planning and Zoning Commission has become much more liberal in terms of the regulations associated with it. When I first came on planning and zoning, to have an accessory apartment, the building itself had to be a structure in place for at least 10 years prior to an application. And that was eliminated, and we've allowed it to then be, new construction as well as existing structures. So we really have been much more flexible, in terms of encouraging ADUs in Guilford, and the majority of which I think, or at least a lot of which I think, are for adults who have aging parents that want to have a place for them to be able to reside close to them. That's my sense, at least, for a lot of these units. And I think that's a terrific thing. And I think we should encourage it. And probably the biggest change that I believe is on the state level is the non-residency requirement in either the primary or the accessory unit.
Great. Well, I guess we can let Glenn go through the proposed new regulation.
Thank you, Scott. I think, just going back a couple of years as we started doing the zoning regulation update, you're correct that the regulations did allow for accessory apartments. And as part of the work on the regulations, George and Aaron and I were looking at ways to facilitate accessory dwelling units. We crafted regulations which pretty much went through the public informational meeting process that we did last January and was in the draft which you had seen up through April. It didn't directly respond to Public Act 2129, which the legislature adopted, which established really sort of a new framework for accessory dwelling units here. And so the state regulations did create an option for municipalities. Do you opt in, which is be accepting of the state parameters in Public Act 2129, or do you opt out, which means that the town maintains its ability to craft its own regulations? And those are really the sort of the two choices. As was touched on earlier in the meeting, there is this process that a community would have to go through to opt out. And come January 1 of 2023, the community, if they haven't opted out by that point in time, it's too late. So Jamie asked me to take a look at the regulations that were crafted back before April, but were in the April drafts, et cetera, and to take a look at Public Act 2129 and suggest how that regulation could be modified to update it to the statutory provision. So if it's okay with the commission, I will share screen and bring the text up so that we're all on the same page, so to speak. Is that okay?
Yes, please do.
Second here. So I think, never mind the numbering here at the top. We're trying to maintain the formats of the current regulations. So this resets to heading 11A, but it's not. I believe it's 3.9A is what it will be in the regulations. And so first sentence is that we're seeking to address current and future housing needs. The statutory requirement is that the review process for approval of an accessory apartment, and I guess we should change that to dwelling unit, apologize for that, shall be completed not later than 65 days after receipt of a complete application. except the applicant may consent to one or more extensions of not more than an additional 65. So it follows and tracks pretty much the planning and zoning process for approval of applications. Not a big surprise, but I think most zoning permits are typically processed within 30 days. That's the state guideline. So this actually gives us a little bit more time to review that, should it be necessary. Option number 1 is within or attached to a single family house. The phraseology within essentially means that the outside configuration of the structure really doesn't change. You just, combine some rooms in the house, put up perhaps a separating wall or a doorway or something else like that. And dwelling unit is essentially defined by the presence of the kitchen, second kitchen. So you would have a dwelling unit, some rooms in a kitchen and then other rooms in a kitchen, and you'd be on your way. Attached to means that you might choose to build a dwelling unit through an addition onto your house, which, essentially is maybe a first floor bedroom or something else like that. So this covers both of those scenarios. Only one accessory apartment per property. We haven't put in the percentages or square feet in here, and those are things that we could talk about. We had numbers in there before, but it places a limitation on the percentage of the finished floor area of the primary dwelling unit or square footage.
So Glenn,
Glenn, are there any guidelines that we can follow that would guide us with respect to those percentages?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'd have to go back and look at your current regulations. When we were looking at this earlier, we had crafted that a accessory unit shall contain a minimum of 400 square feet of floor area. And that's no longer appropriate given the state guidelines here, and not exceed 35% of the total floor area.
So it's not designed to be a dominant structure on the property.
Correct. I think the 35 says, roughly a third of the floor area on the property would be the accessory unit. The other 2/3 realistically would be the primary unit. And these numbers, if you ask me for default numbers, I'd say 35%. And if you wanted to, you could put in, if you have a house that's 4,000 square feet, 35% of that is what, 1,250 square feet for an apartment. You might say, well, hang on a sec, maybe that's getting a little crazy. And you might say, a maximum of 1,000 square feet or something else like that. So again, this is just for the commission. Statute allows you, Public Act 2129 allows you to make these choices.
Hey, I have a question. Prior to the 35%, wasn't it just a minimum and a maximum number? Like
Correct.
400 and 1,200?
Yeah, I think the minimum, the state through Public Act 2129 basically eliminated the provisions for minimum floor area requirements. They've essentially said if it complies with the health code and the building code, zoning doesn't get a chance to step in and apply minimum floor area standards. That's going to be dictated by the other codes.
Yes. Yeah, so do we have to, do we really need to set our own standards, or should we just go with the state standard?
That's a good question, Sean. I think, the question really is for the commission to decide here. I think 35% is standard which many communities are settling in and around that area. And in terms of square feet, 1,000, 1,200 in terms of maximum size. 1,000 square feet is a good size unit.
Yeah,
I can say when I was going through the process, there was a minimum and a maximum, and I ended up somewhere around 900 square feet. But I think the maximum I could have done was 1,200 square feet. I think 35% could be kind of low. I think we ran into that with the person who was in front of us a while back, who had to then go through the process of finishing his basement. It seemed a little strange to me to do that just to meet some standard.
So do we have to have a percentage and a square footage
Yeah, because there was no percentage when I did it. It was 1,200 and 400.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just think a square footage maximum makes more sense than
A percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, 100. I agree with that.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree with that also. But I think we should set it at 1,200.
Okay. Keep the percent in?
No.
No, get the percentage out. I just don't think that makes sense.
Well, the problem is you could have a 10,000 square foot house.
Right.
And by, definition, you could build a 3,500 square foot
Right.
accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
I mean, not that it's the same thing, but I mean, there's, I'm not even going down that road.
Yeah, but it's gonna have a bearing on, the sewage system.
Well, I think the point is you don't want to make it look like there are two primary dwelling units.
Right.
On a property.
Exactly.
You want to have it as, here's the primary house and here's the accessory. You don't want to make it appear to be two, obviously in an extreme example, a huge house and then a very large house.
So we agree on that? Is that the consensus?
The 1,200 square feet, I think, is a reasonable
Yeah.
accessory dwelling unit.
Larry,
I think that is.
Larry, you raise your hand.
Yeah, so tangentially related to this, is there somewhere in this regulation or a reference that, we have rules about setbacks and building height and all that kind of thing. Do these accessory dwelling units have to conform to those?
Yes.
Yes, they do. And in fact, in the use tables, in the different zoning districts, it calls out an accessory dwelling unit in accordance with section 3.9A. So all of the other dimensional standard setbacks, lot coverage would also be a limitation. You don't get to just, add it if that's going to put you in violation of lot coverage, setbacks, et cetera. So yes, those continue to apply.
And does the design committee have to make an approval?
I don't think so.
No, because it's a residential unit. They don't usually approve that.
I guess so. I guess the only thing I can think of that's strange is if somebody had a piece of land that did not have a house on it yet, built a tiny house, and then tried to build a accessory unit.
You'd have a very tiny house.
Yeah. Well,
either that or they could declare the tiny house the accessory unit.
Yeah, I think that would be the way it would go, Phil. Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that begs the question, Scott, is whether we should set a minimum.
I don't think you can.
I'm saying the regulations, the state regs say that you cannot set a minimum.
Okay. So someone could basically create an accessory unit that would be a closet.
Well, it has to have a kitchen.
It has to meet the requirements of the health code and the building code.
Right.
Yeah. It has to have a kitchen in that closet.
Sean, there's also minimum size for bedrooms allowed by building code.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and you have to have a bathroom. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn.
I do like the idea, though.
The next requirement here is that the principal dwelling, the accessory dwelling should be served by common water supply and a common sewage disposal system approved by the health director. That's to actually sort of address the possibility or potential here for a two-family with separate facilities. They've got to be combined. If the system is not up to code, it's going to have to be brought up to code in accordance with the requirements of the health department.
Yeah.
Good.
The parking requirement, as you're probably aware, the Public Act 2129 also changed some other provisions of statutes here and said that zoning regulations shall not require more than one parking space for a studio or one bedroom unit. So this requires that there be at least one additional off-street parking space for the occupant of the accessory unit. If the commission wanted to, you could say, one additional off-street parking space for one bedroom and two for a two-bedroom, that type of situation.
I think at least one is fine with me.
One is fine.
Hey, I mean, the reality is that, like, if you're looking at a single mom looking at a unit, they're not going to have multiple cars.
Mr. Howie, you have a comment?
Quick question, Glenn, you and I had this conversation last week about the current position for CCM on transit-oriented development.
Yep.
Any impact here?
I think I view the issues as being separate, Matt. I mean, the transit-oriented development is land areas within whatever the radius they're going to end up with of a train station, and that's going to change the density factors. What Public Act 2129 did says really statewide, any single family house has the ability to establish an accessory dwelling unit. So it's, could you get, well, I don't know that you can combine them, Matt.
What is the radius from the?
Half mile.
I think last year was a half a mile.
Matt, how far away?
Well, it's past your house from mine and a train station. I know that.
Just curious. I mean, I'm just.
No, half mile from the train station basically gets you down pretty much downtown.
It gets you from the train station pretty close to town, and
Right.
from the train station pretty close to the marina.
Yes, definitely the marina. Downtown might be a little pretty close, but
yeah.
So without having seen how that's written yet, it's hard to assess what the impact will be. It may change the minimum lot size within a half mile of the train station. It may change the density of development within a half a mile. But in places like Guilford, most of the properties are developed already. So if somebody was looking to increase development on their property, I think the situations where they would tear something down to build something new might be more challenging or more difficult in a situation such as this, which is to add an accessory dwelling unit to their property. So they're two different ways of looking at sort of the same issue, but which one would prevail, it's hard to say.
right. Glenn, I think the prevailing issue is septic, right? Because TOD, the legislation that's currently being contemplated talks about mostly for those communities that have sewers, right?
Yep, I think any meaningful density increase would require some type of specialized sewage disposal approach, either sewers or alternative systems, et cetera.
All right, I don't want to scare the commission members, but isn't that why we bought Pages Lane?
Good luck, Matt.
I know. I'm just throwing it out there, Phil.
Just throwing it out there.
I hear you. I hear you.
The statute specifically says that neither the principal unit or the accessory dwelling unit may be rented or used for short-term rentals or vacation stays, which is kind of interesting because those are challenges that can actually remove housing units out of the housing stock that people might want to occupy on a longer term basis. So the statute makes that.
So the statute specifically says that that's added, that's from the state level.
Correct.
And back to my favorite person, Sean, who always manages to mention, how does one monitor that, you know?
I mean, I think it's going to be a challenge to monitor short-term rentals and vacations and all of the other stuff that goes on in coastal communities and coastal areas. But the statute basically says that that's a limitation. And so we'll cross that bridge if it shows up.
Yeah, and that's interesting because at current, we are basically allowing it across Guilford.
So if the commission wanted to.
Can you alter the parts of the state statute?
I guess in theory, this doesn't.
I don't think so. I think you accept the state statute or you reject it. You put up your own.
Yeah, if you want to change this, I think you got to opt out.
But in theory, Glenn, this only relates to houses that have accessory dwellings. So for instance, a single family house all by itself could be rented for a short-term rental application
Correct.
status, which seems very
Well, that's not what it says. It says neither the principal dwelling or the accessory unit. So
right.
it doesn't say,
But if you don't have an accessory dwelling, then how would this even apply to you?
because that would be the primary dwelling unit.
Yeah, but we're talking.
No.
No, I don't,
No,
Phil,
no.
I don't think I read it the same way you
Okay.
do. The only way you get into this section of the regulations is because you want to create an accessory dwelling unit.
All right.
Once you have done that,
Right.
now you foreclose the option to do the short-term rent.
Got it. Okay.
That's really strange.
I would just leave it in there. It'll find its own balance.
Somebody in the state has it against Airbnb. That's what it is.
Obviously.
Wow, that's some slippery stuff. Okay. All right.
Well, I think the argument here, if I may, is that,
It's
you know,
supposed to
it's
increase
something that
housing. I
could,
get it. Yeah.
as
it
Mr.
increases
Hile
housing.
stated, be stable living space for an individual or a family would be
That's
utilized for something that is a higher.
thank you, Jamie.
I
That's
understand.
the way to look at it.
Jamie, wouldn't a rental be like the new Hubbard properties? Those are rentals, right? Then for the affordable.
Right, but not short term. I mean, I think
those
they're
are
just trying to get to the
Yeah,
weekender.
what they're trying to limit is B&B type, Airbnb type
Correct.
rentals.
What
That's
does
a good-
short
Well,
term?
Airbnb type rentals on two properties of the same location.
Well, that's the point, is that we're trying to increase housing, right?
Housing,
So that's
a year lease. type thing.
that's the way to look at it here.
Yeah, what defines short term, Jamie? You know,
We're not going to have any way of regulating this. So
Oh, and I think the other side of it is there's an income component. I don't know if it goes to the town or to the state with respect to short-term housing stuff.
That depends on the individual filing.
yeah,
The town does not receive any compensation for short-term rentals.
no, it's how they file as a business, I believe.
Exactly.
And the other provision of this regulation relates to detached from a single family house. And this is the scenario here again, that approved by a zoning permit. The provision allows for the ZEO to allow a separate septic system if approved by the health director. So for example, we had a large property and the main house and the outbuilding, if you will, were hundreds of feet away from each other. You could install a separate septic system for that. The statute provides that the detached accessory dwelling unit shall not be located in the existing front yard, which is between the principal dwelling and the street, unless reasonably screened from the street and specifically approved by the commission as part of a special permit application. So in other words, we're not going to be putting up tiny houses in front of existing houses is really this provision.
Well, that's similar to what was K, I guess. So similar.
Yeah, except that was the location, I think, of the access
Okay,
to the
gotcha.
unit. Given that the timing is as tight as it is, we find ourselves in kind of a funny situation that the state regulations have been in effect since January 1 of 2022. The deadline for opting out is January 1, 2023. Our estimated timeframe for adopting the new regulations time in the spring, I think it's March, is what Jamie and the commissioner are shooting for. Do we adopt this into our existing regs and then also carry it through to the new regs? Do we just accept the state regulations for 3 more months because these regulations are consistent with that? Not quite sure. So what I would encourage the commission to do is reach out to the commission's attorney and just say, okay, we find ourselves in this scenario with an existing set of regulations, a planned new set of regulations, and a statutory deadline. what do you think is the best way to proceed on this? Because I would not want to put the commission afoul of Public Act 2129 in any way, shape, or form.
So, Glenn,
And
the
if
only
we-
question I have there then, is there anything in the state regulations that we would choose? Or is it, you know what I mean? Is like, for instance, percentage versus square footage. It seems like to me that's the only thing that's in there that we would have a choice of what we wanted to happen. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, what's the difference with just letting the state regulation just roll in?
Yeah, so hang on a second here.
Unless we
Glenn,
have,
if we adopt it now, does that mean that they don't have to come before us and between now and January 1st? Does that sort of stop the
yeah, but we would have to follow the proper procedures for adopting a zoning regulation change. So we would have to have 2 public hearings and all that. So yeah, the main question, Glenn, is there choices in here for us or not? And that's the deciding point, right? If there's things that we want to choose, then that might be a reason for us to adopt it early. If there's nothing really for us to choose from, then there's not really a big difference for it rolling over.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue here, we were talking earlier in the meeting, Phil and others had commented about the floor area and percentage. So here, it's section 6 of Public Act 2129, this subpart 3 here, which has the setting of a maximum net floor area not less than 30% of the principal dwelling or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less, except that such regulations may allow a larger net floor area. And so that's why we were talking the 35% and the 1,200 square feet. And that's a local option for Guilford. So again, the intricacies here get a little delicate in the sense that if we were to not do anything, then come January, right? These regs are already in effect. They became effective on January 1 of 2022.
Right.
But now we find ourselves in the situation of the opt-out date and then a new set of regulations coming. So I'm not an attorney on this one, and I would like the commission to get outside advice on this to make sure that procedurally we are making a wise choice in terms of how to coordinate this between the current regulations and the new. One option for the commission's consideration based on, legal counsel might be set the public hearing date for December to adopt what I've shown you earlier, which puts it in your existing regs and now gives you the placeholder through to the new regs, bypassing the January 1, 2023 date, or that may not be a material issue.
If we can bypass it, Glenn, that makes a lot of sense. But
I think it could, Sean.
go
ahead.
As much as we can get resolved before we pass any kind of deadline, I think is in our best.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, and look, I mean, if we have to have 2 public hearings, we better start setting those hearings right now.
Yeah, right. Good point, Ted.
Well, and that was the thought that I was having was, is it incumbent on us to act on this as opposed to just letting it, like the public expectation is that we act on it as opposed to just letting it roll over and accepting it, right?
Is there anything that egregious in the state regulations that we don't?
We just went through it. We literally just went through it.
I know, but I'm just, I'm saying,
I'm inclined that we should adopt these new regulations and set the hearing and let's do it our way as opposed to defaulting into something else.
Well, I think I sensed some agreement about the percentage versus total square feet.
Well, so again, that's a reason for us to go ahead.
Yeah, I think
do it.
I agree with Ted and that we should try to push this along.
Jimmy, is there a road that you see, or do we need to talk to Chuck about what the road would be? Is it time to do this?
There is time to do it. I do not think this public act actually, I think we have to have a meeting and a vote by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then we may have to have a meeting and a vote by the Board of Select People. There is not, I don't believe, any mention in here that it has to be a 35-day public hearing notice. I think that we could do the 2 meetings, but as Glenn is suggesting, I will reach out to Attorney Andrus. But if I could just offer a little bit of a different viewpoint. My intention here was that Glenn would draft what we would automatically be held to if we choose to opt, if we do not opt out. So I was thinking about it from the perspective of, if we do not opt out by January 1, 2023, we will receive, inherit or be held to these regulations that Glenn just walked us through. And then we would just, by state statute, or we would just have to work within those regulations, and then we would adopt them or add them to our draft that we have the public hearing on and adopt in March. But maybe now what I'm seeing is that if the public should express some opposition in March to this regulation, there's really no chance for us to change it, because we will have officially, opted in come January 2023 if we don't opt out.
That's my worry about just waiting, is that we haven't really, we as a commission obviously have talked about it twice now. But hasn't really been done in a public forum.
I completely agree. I think that if there is opposition to this, we need to know about it now, because we can't do nothing and have this hearing in March where we're trying to get these other things approved, and somebody's all up in arms because they don't like this provision. Well, by then we didn't opt out and we don't have a choice. So to my way of thinking, it could color the discussion about some other provisions of the zoning code we're trying to change. If people have strong feelings about this, let's set a public hearing, the 2 public hearings now, and let's hear it.
I think that what I could discuss with Chuck, seeing if the noticing, if there's enough advance noticing, would be to potentially get this on our December 7th meeting. But again, I have to check if that's enough notice. And then I think the Board of Select People meets when, Matt?
December 5th, I think is the next one after that meeting, possibly.
So if I can just jump in, sorry, Matt, I think the idea here that the Board of Selectmen, any action by them is only required if the town is going to opt out.
You're absolutely right, Glenn.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're choosing to opt in, and there's 2 ways to do this. We could modify the regulation to simply say accessory dwelling unit by zoning permit in accordance with the provisions of 8-2. This, I don't actually know exactly where this is going to get codified. The new statutes aren't going to come out till January 1st, but we could say section 6 of Public Act 2129, and then we are perfectly consistent.
Right.
Right.
I, as most of you know, I don't usually try to put my thumb on the scale of anything. But my proclivity is that we opt in. And if people have significant opposition to that, I would like to hear it now.
I agree. That's why I think we should have the public hearings.
I'm not sure a public hearing is necessary, personally.
So Jamie, you're going to check with Chuck, correct?
Yeah, I will check with Chuck. Again, not to, be too anxious about this one, but, let's say December 7th, we hold a meeting, a public hearing, if I can get away with that amount of noticing. And we get significant opposition. That leaves you, the commission members, with the need to then make a decision if we choose to opt out and bring that before the Board of Select people to opt out. So I don't want to forget that piece of it too. I'm not trying to overcomplicate things, but if we hold a public hearing and all goes great, wonderful, then we've adopted it and we're opting in. If we hold a public hearing and it does not go great, then we need to get it before the Board of Select people in order to opt out. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
That's fine.
So the only reason I'm suggesting that, Jamie, if you want to have a conference call with you and I and Chuck or Matt either, the issue ends up here, sort of this language here in this subpart here. If the community doesn't opt out of the provisions, then by default,
you go.
The provisions of subsection F of this section and any non-compliant existing regulation becomes null and void. And then you shall approve or deny applications in accordance with the requirements set forth in this section. So
thank you, Glenn, because this is a public meeting, but we could make sure that what you just said happens. But we're not, as Jamie just eloquently stated, we still want to have public input. We still want to have
I think
a fair hearing on it. And those who decide to participate can participate. We are opting for the inclusion as opposed to the default option.
Correct. That's how it's been, and that's going to that's how it's going to be put forth. Yes.
Yeah.
We just want to allow people to have their say if they disagree.
Right.
And people there may be a component that don't like it, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to go. You know what I mean? It kind of comes down to us, right? In the final say.
I think so.
Correct.
And I
Heavy
think
wears the what is it? Heavy wears the head, bears the crown, or whatever.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yes.
I think that I'd like to get, I think reaching out to Chuck is helpful, I think, to make sure that we get this right. If the commission was not in the middle of adopting new regulations and we were just working with the regulations we have, I think it's pretty clear what we'd have to do. But with the new regulations, we don't want to sort of, have done something procedurally along the way that in some way messed up what our goal and intention is here. So I think if we just ask Chuck to look through what we've talked about and what we're doing, he may have a simpler way to do it or an easier way to do it, or maybe he would advise don't do anything. And this is going to kick in and it is what it is. So I think that's the best way to proceed.
Glenn, you're absolutely right. It's one of the best options you can have is don't make a decision, right?
If you don't make one, you can't make a wrong one.
Thank you, Phil.
I think, Glenn, bear in mind that the only thing that we reviewed and thought should change is that square footage requirement.
Yeah, and by default, Scott, by default, the numbers would be 30% and 1,000 square feet according to that provision.
Correct.
So if we wanted to make it 35% and 1,200, then I would say to you, we have to take affirmative action before January 1 of 2023 on that.
Or you have to, well, couldn't you wouldn't be able to do it after the fact?
Yes.
Now, Scott, I just can't give you a good answer because,
it's you could go bigger, right?
That's
it's not clear you could, go bigger.
Well, it says you can, but it doesn't exactly say when you do that, when you're adopting.
Exactly. And
Okay,
that's
so
this thing.
We should probably
within
assume that it's when it's being adopted is when we have to decide. It seems to me that make the most sense.
And that's the way it's worded, Scott. If a municipality fails to adopt new regulations or amend existing regulations by this date.
So I think when in your discussions with Chuck, then you would tell him that the commission is looking to do 1,200 square feet and not a percentage.
Yep.
Correct.
And that's the only comment that we have.
So I think at that point in time, Jamie, I'm wondering, if it's possible for the commission to make a provisional motion tonight in some way, shape, or form. In that the commission directs staff to explore a public hearing for December 7th, pending a discussion from the town attorney.
Why can't we set a public hearing for December 7th? We can cancel it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ted. Yeah, okay. Much simpler.
So is that a motion, Ted?
Yes.
Do I hear
I
a second?
Second.
Can you, Glenn, could you, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Brilliant, Ted, brilliant.
Unanimous.
Wonderful.
Who gave the second? Sorry, I missed the taking notes.
I think it was Bill.
That was Bill.
Thank you.
Jamie, anything else that we are looking to accomplish here?
No, that was great. Actually, I did want to just give a little recap and place us in time where we are, to be able to discuss this in a public hearing on December 7th is great. We do have a few additional meetings as part of the zoning regulations. So on November 30th is an information session with the power users. So, these are folks I have talked to, Michael Harkin, Michael Ott, Russ Campaign. I mean, these are people who we see coming through the office repeatedly. And I've just asked them to share with us in that meeting or just writing to me with anything that they'd like for us to ensure that we have looked at and addressed in the new zoning regulations. One of them that has come up quite a bit, Nigel and I have seen in our short time with the town, is, setbacks and lot coverage requirements for the R8 zone for parcels in that zone that are less than the minimum lot size of 160,000 square feet. And that is actually handled quite nicely in the new regulations. So, that's kind of a very nitty-gritty, very detailed, surgical, I call them, kind of intervention that only really people who are in the weeds of the zoning regulations all the time can pick up on. And that's the intention of the November 30th session. And then we will have a working meeting, which I think will be probably open to the public, but will be more akin to a working session for all of us on December 22nd. So really that's kind of it. At that point, we would like to have a pretty complete draft. And thinking that next week is Thanksgiving, we're down to the wire here, although we maybe thought this would never happen, but we're getting there.
So Jamie, with the December 22nd would be you maybe 2 or 3 weeks before you send out the final working rough draft and have us come to the 22nd ready to discuss anything that we didn't like from it, or how?
Well, yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So then we have a scheduled public information meeting on January 26th. That would be, ideally, I'm not sure what COVID or anything else will bring us, but I would love to have that in person at the community center, several tables set up, different kind of sections or areas that people can go to. If you're the Safe Streets Task Force, you come and you look at that section and you provide us comments there. Then it's quite difficult in the Zoom setting to be able to address each kind of subject area or interest area. And that would be on the 26th. And then we would offer, the 35-day public hearing notice. And then we would go for a vote on March 15th. So really at that January 26th meeting, we would, I think, need a full, our final draft, basically.
Hey, Jamie, can you do us a favor? You've got so much on your plate, but if you could,
He does.
send us out some placeholders for these.
Sure, yep.
That'd be
Yep.
great, just so we've got,
That, yep,
some
And I-
space aligned on our calendars.
yep. And I think 2 weeks ago, Glenn and Nigel and I had a very productive meeting. Matt joined us for a bit where we just kind of, they were amused by my now working copy of the zoning regs, which is so covered in Post-its and little things that it's ridiculous. But those handwritten notes from all of these sessions now need to get into a draft. And so really Nigel and I have quite a bit of work before us, that we would, ideally, I would like to get a lot of the revised draft together early December, second week in December. So it's a good amount of work.
That was my point in bringing up the 22nd working session is let's make sure we have an idea in mind of what we're going to do there. Do you have, so let's talk about, maybe offline we can talk about, is there homework that we need to give to all the commission members? Be ready for that date? They're just a list of items that we're going to talk about. Whichever way you think is going to be most effective to help you get to a final draft.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could for a minute.
Yes, sir.
The evidence is clear that one of the best hires I've made since I came into this job is Jamie Stein, and she is exceptional at what she's doing. And I see the heads nodding around here, and I want to thank her for the expertise and also the willingness to dig into these issues. You should know that we are probably going to go to the Board of Finance over the next month and a half to request somewhere around what, $500,000 in funds for studies. Wait a second.
It was right around 700,000.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
That's a good salary.
You may not get it all, just like everybody else. Which are monies are going to be used to inform and to integrate plan of conservation and development and a bunch of other things. So I'm actually thrilled to be able to support the efforts that Jamie and her team. And by the way, Nigel, who's brand new, who hasn't, he probably hasn't figured out how smart Jamie is yet, but I'm sure he's going to figure it out pretty quickly. The other thing I just want to mention briefly is the whole issue of cannabis, which will be on your plate relatively soon. The Board of Selectmen is going to meet with one of the leading attorneys on cannabis legalization legislation on December 5th. And my hope is that we're going to make a decision at the, that would be 14 days later, that would be the 19th of December, relative to the legalization aspects. And there is a whole host of those that might happen. So the challenge for you guys is, assuming we say yes, where does it happen and where does it not happen? My personal belief is we do not use the zoning code for social engineering. Then that's a responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. So just assume that either it's going to be approved. I think you need to assume that it might be approved. And then the question is, where does that, what's most appropriate for where it goes? So thank you very much for indulging me on that conversation.
And thank you for the
I'll take
compliments.
questions from anybody.
If I could ask, if you could provide some quick guidelines as to where the Board of Selectmen might suggest it would not be appropriate, that might guide us.
Well, Phil, thank you for that. Thank you for that question. We have we used the digital survey, digital push poll that we did, and we're about to roll out. As I know Jamie is an architect of this. We're about to roll out an engagement platform for our community, which is designed to get input. But a lot of the original input was, don't put it within a mile of the schools, or don't put it within a half a mile of schools. So for those of you guys who are familiar with the topography of Guilford, if you say not
That
within a mile of
excludes
the
a lot of
school,
property.
Yeah, that's a
if you,
lot.
if you say we're not within a mile of the schools, guess what?
You can't
get
do
about
anything
you
in
get about a
downtown.
half a mile on the Madison side, and you got about a half a mile on the Branford side. And quite honestly, that would mean nothing downtown, right? You guys might be faced with that kind of conversation. My personal belief is it ought to be restricted to areas that are traditional commercial establishment. And I'm not sure there should be a smoke shop on the green, but that's only one man's opinion.
This is for dispensaries only, right?
Yeah.
No, Bill, it's there are a range of decisions that the Board of Selectmen have to make.
Growers as well.
Dispensaries are only one. Production facilities, cultivation facilities. Jamie, you know more than I do,
The
but
logistics.
there are a range.
Yep.
There are like 14 or 13 or 14 different cannabis related businesses that we might have to consider.
Hey, Matt, do you have a sense of where Brantford or Madison stands on this? Because, you know, proximity is everything.
Yeah, but that's a great question, Sean. Who blinks first is really where it is right now. Brantford already has a dispensary. As you guys know, no, you may or may not know, but your board several years ago said no medical dispensaries in town. So it could be a significant sea change as to whether or not we allow that in town. So, but to answer your question, no, I don't know exactly, but Brantford already has a dispensary.
Is Branford's dispensary like for everyone, or is it the cards?
It's still medical. That was granted under medical, and
medical.
Our current regulations prohibit medical dispensaries, right?
I think I think that's correct, or it hugely limits it to like almost nowhere.
Well, there's an interesting argument, Phil. The way the ordinance was written and adopted, either through the Board of Selectmen or through you guys, specifically says medical dispensaries. It does not prohibit retail.
Non-medical.
Right. So because at the time those were not permitted by law. So
right.
That's kind of
that's an interesting twist.
Yeah. Well, that's why we pay the attorneys a lot of money, right?
Yeah. It was interesting from the standpoint that when that came up, there was a very, very vocal, I'm not gonna say minority, but a very, very vocal group that was adamant against it. And I'm not sure if that's the vast majority, but the vocal minority.
Phil, you are absolutely right. And I'll put a name to it. It was a day organization. And I have to admit here with all of you, I was on the Board of Finance at the time. I did not know that we passed an ordinance prohibiting medical marijuana dispensaries in town. Shame on me. I should have been paying closer attention to something, but that was largely done under the cloak of less than full transparency.
Well, I believe that was under a prior administration, so you don't have to.
You don't have to say that.
Well, I sat on the board at the time, so I'll say it.
Okay, thank
you. All right. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for indulging me.
Yes, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Howie. Jamie, anything else for us before we say goodnight?
No, not this evening. Thank you very much. I think that was very productive, and we'll circle back with some homework, as you say, for the December 22nd meeting.
Great. And Glenn, as always, thanks for joining us, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn.
All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, and Bill Freeman, all in favor?
Aye.
Non-debatable motion.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Have a good
Have a
night.
good Thanksgiving.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye-bye.
Night.